tricks are not just for kids. They're also for dogs and puppies. Doesn't matter the age of the dog. Teaching good tricks is going to help enhance your relationship and your workability with your young dog. That's exactly what we're talking about today on the McCann Dogs podcast. Welcome back to McCann Dogs.
If your dog can wave to somebody or, cover their nose with their paw, even the person who doesn't like dogs, they like that.
Yes.
They do like that.
Yeah. You know what I really like about that too? Is it helps to break down that barrier.
Yes.
So if, for example, that person has had a bad experience and they're weary of dogs or a little wary of dogs, then seeing that and breaking that little bit of hesitation, even if, the dog's 15 feet away and they're seeing it, that little smile like that, that's got to be therapeutic.
Right, yes.
It really has to be therapeutic.
Yes. So
that's awesome.
So teaching dogs tricks it's just a way of bringing happiness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. I like to show off my tricks, of course, too, but my motivation for teaching tricks, there's so many different motivators here. And one of them is that it is the opportunity to teach more communication with my dog.
True, yes.
And to do so in a way where there's no pressure, right? It doesn't matter if my dog doesn't master a shake a paw or a high five or a spin for 3 months. I mean, that's probably pretty extensive. I can usually teach those tricks in about 3 minutes because they're fairly straightforward tricks to teach. But having said that, who cares if they don't? Right? What's the worst thing that happens? Whereas with my recall, the worst thing that happens if I don't get a good recall with my dog could be fatal, could be an awful situation.
Yes.
So there's pressure to get that done and get it done quickly and then be able to afford the dog more freedom because you have this complex skill that you can rely on to get them to come back to you. And some of these skills that we teach our dogs are so crucial that we need to get them done. And there's all sorts of pressure to do so. But with tricks, it's just fun.
It's fun. Yes.
There's no pressure. There's no consequence if they don't get it right.
Exactly. It's like we go to school and we're learning, crucial things for life, but then we also have our hobbies and our hobbies are fun and we're still learning, hobbies are teaching us and we're developing new skills, and that's what tricks are. They're almost like our dog's hobbies.
Absolutely.
Yes, as opposed to their work.
Yeah. And the more you can get in repetition on things that are sort of like low key and chill, the more your dogs learn to read you and learn to read the things that you're asking them to do, and this communication develops. And now we can use that in our important training skills, right? We can use the communication we develop through tricks to help build that recall because our dogs have a better opportunity to be able to understand us, to be able to, read what we're asking them to do, get it right, and therefore form the skill that we're looking to teach them. So.
Yes. Yeah. And often too, like when we teach tricks, we naturally smile. We're naturally relaxed. We'll laugh at the dog too.
I love that.
And those are all things that build relationship in a
so
good
fun.
way. Because we're in a leadership role teaching, but at the same time, we're doing it in a fun way.
Yeah.
It's
bonding.
It's being in a class with a great teacher that's laughing and having fun, but you're learning.
Yes, absolutely. You just don't quite realize you're learning because you're having so much fun with
exactly.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, such a great thing to do. I love tricks. What are some of your favorite tricks that you've ever taught your dogs? Anything that stands out?
Well, one of my favorite memories of a trick is something simple. It was just shake a paw, and such a simple trick. Cowboy, my Saluki, I've mentioned in other podcasts, was in a children's production of the opera Aida, and there was 5 productions of it. And afterwards, we would all go. There was wine and cheese and other refreshments. The wine wasn't for the children, of course.
Well, they wouldn't be able to get past you to get to it anyways.
That's true,
I'm sure
yes.
that you would have had that covered.
Right.
So.
And people were all dressed up. You dress up to go to the opera. And, of course, Cowboy would come in as one of the stars of the opera. And she would, people were walking around with their food plates and all that. And she would sit quietly beside me. And as people approached her, she recognized that they had cheese and other delicacies that she would like to indulge in, too. And she would offer a paw to them.
Please,
so
sir.
Yes, so people, and she was a big, tall, lanky dog, so you could really see that foot coming up. And she also was dressed as an Egyptian dog, so she had a little bit of bling on her too, and her legs were wrapped brightly. And as people approached with their tray of goodies, she would raise her paw.
Aww.
And I knew that she was saying, I want your cheese. Here, shake my paw so I can get it. But the people took it as she was like, hello, and giving greeting her, like, shake my hand, meet me. And it made her the star of the after get-togethers. And she did that all on her own. And I thought, this is just so special. And I just loved it. Such a simple trick. But yet it turned into something special in those evenings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and what a nice way to say, please, can I have a cookie? Instead of just shoving her face in their plate or seeing the food coming and jumping up on them or something like that. That's so adorable.
Right. Yes.
Aw, Cowboy, you were one in a million.
She was a good dog.
She was a good dog. And I remember that production, and I'd seen pictures, and it was some really neat stuff. She did great in that. So.
Yeah. How about you? What's your favorite trick?
I would say, my favorite trick, the one that stands out the most that popped into my head immediately, that I probably is the one that I'm the most proud of, was teaching Jaden to sneeze on command.
Oh, that. And
it took a long time. So in terms of methodology, there's a couple of different methods that you can use to teach tricks, and one of them is capturing. Capturing is basically being opportunistic when things happen in a natural fashion. So anytime Jaden would sneeze, I would mark yes and then reward it somehow. If I had food on me, it would be food, because that's the easiest, and that's usually the thing that gets your dog's attention the most. So they go, oh, why did I get that cookie? Especially when we have thinking, learning dogs that know how to offer behaviors and know how to capitalize on reinforcement, they will start to think and pattern through those behaviors. Okay, what got me that cookie? What can I do again to get another cookie? So eventually what happens with capturing, once you've rewarded it well enough, and I got off track a little bit there. I said if I had food on me, I would reward with food because it's easiest. But if I didn't have food on me and it happened naturally, I would make sure to reward with something else. So I would still take that opportunity to mark yes, to pinpoint that event with my marker yes, and yes being specifically an event marker that says this is what's earned you the cookie. It's very powerful for the dog, right? So he would sneeze, I would say yes, and he'd look at me. And then if I didn't have food on me, I would play with him, or I'd give him, a good body rub or whatever the case may be. He had all sorts of rewards that were not food that I knew he enjoyed. So I could use those to continue to drive behaviors. And over a matter of time, and I can't remember, I wish I had a better memory about how long it took me to capture that. I do know that he did it through the majority of his life, so it must have been young in his life that I was able to get that on cue. But basically, once he knew offering this sneeze would get him a reward, he would start to just blow air out through his nose. And it wasn't really a sneeze, but it was trying. Close enough. It was close enough that I could say, hey, look, my dog can sneeze on cue.
Right.
So I would say a chew to him, and he would go back at me, and it would look like a sneeze enough that, he would get the reward.
Yeah.
So I eventually put that on cue. When I was in scenarios where I knew that chances are he's going to offer this, I would precede it with a chew cue.
Right.
And let's talk about cues for a second, because I think this is a place where people often get confused with dog training, and they end up throwing words at their dogs and expecting the dogs to somehow understand that.
Right.
So let's talk about cues. When do you add a cue?
I don't add a cue until the dog is doing the behavior.
Perfect.
Yes.
Name it once they know it.
Right.
So if you think about what we're doing here, we're creating associations. So if you're learning a different language, say you're learning, I'm going to say you're learning English, because I don't speak any other languages well, and I'll just embarrass myself trying to make this point. So if I show you a cue card with a picture of an apple, and I say apple, that's going to create an association. If, on the other hand, I simply start saying apple, 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 but I don't give you any indication of what apple is, and you don't know what that word means, there's going to be some confusion there for you. You're going to be like, what? Why do you keep saying this thing?
Right. And eventually you'll just tune out the person because I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually you say, that there's no significance with this word apple that you keep saying, so I'm just going to forget it. I'm going to tune it out. It's not important. It's not important for my safety, my existence, whatever. It's not going to earn me reward because it's just this word that keeps getting thrown out. So you're actually making your job harder by adding that cue before the dog understands the behavior. Right. So think about the behavior as the cue card, the picture of the apple on the cue card that makes the word apple make sense. The dog's sneezing in this case is the apple. And now I'm going to associate a word with it, right? So the sneeze, I say achoo, either as it's just happening and capturing, or just before, if I possibly can. You know, if I'm good enough to predict that this sneeze is coming, I can throw out that word achoo, then get the sneeze, and then reward it. And I'm creating an association. So now I'm basically showing my dog the cue card because they know the behavior already, and then associating the word with it.
Right.
And now he can understand that's an apple.
Right.
Great. That's a sneeze. That's what I do when we say
Right.
achoo.
And dogs aren't used to learning by language.
No, they're not. That's an excellent point.
For humans, it's natural for us to use language.
Yeah.
Dogs in the dog world will never, ever, ever use language to learn something. It's all body cues and signals.
Yeah.
So it's very foreign for our dogs to actually learn our words. It's actually it shows what marvelous creatures they are.
Yes. They truly are amazing.
Yes.
They're so gifted and they're so intelligent
Right.
and they're so adaptable.
Yes.
You know, if we moved into their world, we would be trying to take it over and make it our world.
Right.
But they move into our world and we say, okay, you know what? I'm going to show you a few things of how this is done. And they go, okay,
Right.
sure.
Yes. Yeah. It really is amazing that we can take an animal and bring them into our homes
Yes.
and have them behave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like the communication between two species.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. And when you're training a dog to understand you and communicate with you, the more time you can spend working on these concepts and working on helping them understand our communication, the better off you are. And then that we go right back to the beginning where I said tricks are so good for building communication.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's not just about being cute and showing off. That's a great side effect,
Right.
but we want to make sure that we're building this communication and we're helping our dogs learn different methods of learning as well. So we mentioned capturing. I also want to talk about luring in a nutshell. Tell us what luring is.
Luring is when you use generally foods. You pinch a food between your fingers and you move the food in the direction that you want the dog to go.
Yes. And our goal is for the dog to follow the food easily so that they understand that when they see this cookie, we can use it to manipulate them into different things.
Right.
You know, I could take this cookie and I could move my hand in a circle and have my dog follow that. That's me teaching them a spin. So I move my hand in a circle. I say yes when they get to the end of the spin. I reinforce with that cookie. I do that several times. I'm not using a cue yet. And then once I get to the point where I can sort of like just use a little gesture with my hand and my dog goes, oh, I'm supposed to spin that circle. And then I get the cookie. Now I can start saying spin, then do the lure action, then yes and reward at that point. So that's how I add a cue on that. Sometimes your pup will be ready for you to add cues quite quickly, depending on how difficult the task is. Sometimes it'll take you quite a while before you get to the point where you can add a cue.
Right. Yes. Like I find roll over can sometimes take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Some dogs roll over really quick. Other dogs, it takes a long time to get them to do that roll.
Well, you had corgis. I'm curious, was that a really tough trick? Because they don't necessarily have the same weight to be able to shift themselves.
I found,
around.
they used to get stuck on their back with their legs in the air. And so that often.
Like a cockroach.
Like a cockroach. Yes, your cockroach. So that actually, one rolled better than the other.
Okay.
Gavin rolled better than Iggy. So I remember.
Why was that? What do you think?
He just seemed rollier. I don't know. Iggy had a different, he just was rollier than.
He was
rollier.
I'm
But
always so
also,
curious.
I think too, I was a more experienced dog trainer when I got Gavin.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
I think maybe that's why he was a bit
Gotcha.
rollier. But so the rollover, because there was more little steps, it took far longer for me to add the word in.
Gotcha. Yeah. And
Just-
there's nothing wrong with taking your time
No.
with adding the cue in.
And you know what? They can do it off a signal too.
Yeah.
So it's not, I could just make a little rolling motion with my hand and they know what that means
Yeah.
too. So you've taught them two things. You've taught them a signal and a verbal.
Absolutely.
Yes. Because people often say, my dog knows signals. And I think, well, that's not that big a deal. Signals are far
Yes,
easier
they
for
are.
a dog to learn
Yeah.
than a verbal.
Yeah.
I'm more impressed by a dog that can go just on a verbal with no other signal or body language.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Definitely. And if you use good timing when you're adding the command or the cue into your trick, you will be able to isolate the verbal only or the signal only, and you'll be able to have the best of both worlds.
Right.
Like, for example, with Jaden, way back when, I actually taught him to bark on just a hand signal so that when he would go, he did a couple of movie shoots or whatever, photo shoots. He was on a Super Chew package for Purina. Just, way back
Chews.
Way back when we used to do this stuff.
Right, yeah.
And I would want him to be able to be on set with me outside of the range of the camera, and I'd want to be able to cue him to bark.
Right.
So I would actually just make a yapping noise with my finger, or yapping gesture with my fingers.
Yeah. Shannon's if you want to see this, go to YouTube, because you can watch us on YouTube and see Shannon's yapping fingers.
Now I'm doing it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, yapping fingers. So the good timing piece is, what's the good timing piece?
I'm still thinking about the yapping fingers.
Yapping fingers. So
yes, you've got me completely off kilter now.
Using good timing. So basically,
separating.
Exactly.
Separating the verbal from the signal by a split second.
Yeah.
So they hear it, then see it. Hear it, then see it.
Exactly. Yes. So for example, I would want to say spin, then do my little gesture, then yes and reward, rather than saying spin as I gesture at the same time, because then my dog is probably going to have all of these stacked cues in there, and he's going to need to see the signal and hear the cue, because that's how he learned to do it. And if you take away one of those components, he might throw up some confusion there. So ideally, I want my dog eventually to do it on one or the other. I don't want to have to use both. It's not the end of the world if I have to use both, certainly, but it's good training to be able to isolate it onto just the verbal command.
Yes, I have a story too about it's similar to your yapping fingers. So Iggy used to bark on yapping fingers too.
Okay, and
she also barked on the verbal speak. And I used to use the verbal speak. This was funny. So back in my 20s, I had my minivan. Or maybe I had a station wagon back then, and I had the solid airline crates.
Okay.
And I had 3 of them in there. So I couldn't see the crate at the very back, which was Iggy's. And sometimes I'd load everyone into the car, and I'd sit in the car, and then I'd have this weird thing. Did I put all the dogs in the car, or are some still running about? And that's weird, but... And I could look...
Well, it's like going, did I turn off the stove? I better go back and check. Did I lock the front door? Like, you get into rote, and you don't... Yeah.
So the way the crates were set up, I could look back and I could see Saber's crate and I could see Gavin's crate, but I couldn't see in Iggy's crate. So I used to say, Iggy, speak. And then I'd hear a little bark. Yep, Iggy's in the car. We're good to go.
I don't have to drive back 500 miles.
Right, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I remember, quite often. Iggy, speak. And I also...
It's just reassuring.
She was also my answering... Remember back the olden days of answering machines when you'd have the big thing on your coffee table? That was when... So my answering machine was, you'd hear... Like I used the signal, and so you didn't hear anything. Also, you'd hear, bark, bark, bark. Iggy says to leave your message after the beep.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh, that's cute. Yes. Now we just have this call answer thing. I don't know if we could do that anymore.
I know.
I guess you could put it right up to your dog's mouth.
Yeah. Times have changed.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, I remember running in, and I'd run to the coffee table or the end table, and I'd push. Oh, it's flashing! I got it. Machine answer, telephone it. Why can't I talk? I don't know, because I'm excited. I'm overexcited.
You're overstimulated.
I am.
Stop it.
I pushed the button, and then you'd hear click, 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 and everything would start, and then the cassette would go around.
Actual tape.
Yeah, an actual cassette tape. Yeah, and then you'd listen to your messages. And woo!
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's hilarious. That just takes me back.
The good old days.
The good old days. Have you seen that? There's like a Facebook video that floats around of a couple of young people trying to figure out how to use a rotary dial phone.
I have. That's funny.
for those of us that lived back in the era where rotary dial phones were a thing, like I can totally appreciate that they would be like, what is that noise when I pick up the handset? Because we don't do dial tones really anymore.
Yeah. And remember the sensation? You'd put your finger and that feel and then it would roll back.
And then it would take 10 minutes just to dial a phone number. Yeah. And if you dialed wrong, you'd be in trouble. Actually, it's funny because when we would lose power at the hall, probably up until like 7 or 8 years ago, we would have to plug in a rotary dial phone and use that to dial out. And of course, we're in the country, so a lot of times phone numbers are long distance. So I would be dialing 3 digits for the area code and then another 7 for the phone number. And of course, it takes forever because you dial and then wait. And then dial and then wait. And of course, I would get to the end of that last digit and it would go, we're sorry. you need to dial 1 before. I'd be so upset because I just spent 10 minutes dialing this phone.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It's funny. And often we're phoning to tell people classes are canceled. We have no power here. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Just the perils of the early technology, eh?
Yeah. We went from training tricks to discussing rotary dial phones.
I know. What's next? Let's talk about engineers in trains conducting. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's get back to tricks, actually, because that's probably a more interesting conversation. So we talked about capturing. We talked about luring. Right. I want to talk about shaping. So in a nutshell, what is shaping?
Shaping is getting the dog to offer the behavior. Waiting the dog out till they offer that behavior.
Yeah. So with shaping, I might have like a lofty goal, like a really big goal. You know, my goal might be for my dog to
dial a rotary dial phone.
Dial a rotary dial phone.
You better let a toenail, one toenail needs to grow long.
Yeah, exactly. Licorice.
Yeah.
I might want to teach my dog to grab a blanket and then roll himself up in it, for example. So this is an elaborate trick.
A dog burrito.
Yeah. I'm not going to get that just from luring. I'm not going to get that from just, capturing. This is never going to happen naturally for my dog. So what I need to do is I need to find little approximations. So basically they're little tiny guesses on the dog's part. And once you teach your dog how to shape, you have a dog that says, okay, I know that in this scenario, when you say, I usually cue it, I say, do something with my dogs because I don't like them just offering random behaviors when I don't. Look at me with my wavy arms.
Yes.
Here. I don't like them throwing random behaviors.
What can you do?
Yeah.
What
See,
can
that's
you do?
A good one too.
Yeah.
I just cue it. I'll have
show
some
me
food
something.
ready. Yeah. Do something. Exactly. Just some sort of cue. And then you can go through this wonderful shaping session.
And so, sometimes shaping changes to something different. Like I might say, I want my dog to back up and, go to that chair. And then they start to offer something different. And I think, I'm going to go with this instead. And now my dog is, maybe sidestepping sideways and, standing on a mat. Yes. I don't know. I just made that up.
Hey, it works because that's the way shaping evolves sometimes.
Right, yep.
So let's use a simpler example than rolling in the blanket. So maybe I want my dog to crawl underneath a chair.
Okay.
So in the initial stages of this exercise for shaping, I am going to look for any sort of interaction or focus on the chair that there is. So I'm not looking for my dog right from the onset to go to the chair and go underneath the chair.
Right.
That would be, I would be sitting there forever waiting to capture that because why would my dog offer that naturally? Right. But if every time my dog glances at the chair, even if they're a few feet away from it, I say yes and reward, pretty soon my dog says, oh, it's got something to do with that chair. For those of us that remember games that weren't electronic, because technology has come so far, when we used to play with our friends and we would play hot and cold.
Right.
That's that's shaping. Yes. If you remove the hot element, because we're not telling our dogs that they're wrong when we're shaping. We're telling them when they're right. So we're looking for a guess that is slightly closer to the end product than the guess before it was. So that first thing that I reward might be them looking at the chair. Then I might insist on them moving a step towards the chair. Again, this is definitely not my end goal of them going underneath the chair. It's them moving in the direction of the chair. I'm going to yes and reward. And then once they're readily offering that and happy to offer that, I'm going to wait for a little bit further. Now I might wait for them to actually get to the chair. Now I might wait for them to get to the chair and put their head slightly under. I can use reward placement to my advantage. If, for example, when my dog gets to the chair, I say yes and reward close to the chair, then that really helps to build the desire to keep interacting with that chair, right? So I can slowly get from a dog who has no idea what I'm looking for to a dog that says, okay, I'm supposed to go under this chair, and I can build that behavior from there just by asking him to guess a little bit closer and closer and closer to that end goal piece.
Right, yes. We do have a video on shaping on our YouTube channel. So if you go to McCann Dogs YouTube and type in shaping, you'll find a video.
There's a couple of them, actually.
That show a little bit more, because it can be a little bit of a harder concept to grasp. Yes, and it's an exercise in patience. too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And quite honestly, when I start shaping with a young puppy, my goal is just to get them offering behaviors.
Yes.
So I want my puppy to be like, I'm confident enough to guess. You know, we're in this scenario and there's a chance to earn reward. I'm confident enough to guess that maybe it has something to do with this over here, or maybe it has something to do with that. The worst thing that happens with shaping, if they don't get it right, they just don't get a reward. They don't get marked and they don't get a reward. And we just keep waiting, or we set it up so that they have an easier time of guessing that thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Do you have a behavior that you've shaped that is quite...
I've done a ton of shaping with my dogs over the years. I really enjoy watching what they might throw at me. I've shaped rear leg lifts. I've shaped all sorts of different backup behaviors. And I think the sky's really the limit when it comes to shaping, because it's just what your imagination comes up with. And it's just what your dog offers, right? If I were to put any sort of prop in the middle of the floor, my dog would probably want to interact with it. And if I started to and reward that, he would go right into shaping mode. Okay, we're working.
We're doing that.
We're doing this thing. Yeah.
I taught Honda to ride along on a skateboard with shaping.
Perfect.
Like, you put it down and right away he wants to interact with it, and he tries putting his feet up, and finally he moves it a little bit. And actually he hasn't had a good skateboard ride in a while. I should get it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ty took it away with him to university, so we're skateboardless at home. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of our students in our members only program have been having some fun with skateboarding stuff as well. And one of our students actually came across a skateboard discarded in the trash on the street. She picked it up and brought it home. I think she replaced a wheel.
Right.
And then she did some painting.
Did she? Yep.
And it's beautiful and ready for Java to have some fun with skateboarding.
Skateboard that's a fun little trick to teach your dog. Yes.
Garage sales are usually good places to find skateboards.
Right.
Or, maybe places like Value Village and whatnot
would have the used ones. Yeah.
You can get one for cheap for your dog that's already a little bit scuffed up and wrecked and whatnot.
All right.
So. Methods are so fun when it comes to shaping.
And one of instructor Nancy, her dog plays basketball, and I know she taught that by shaping. And it's so much fun.
She showed off that trick last night at our lesson one.
Yeah, she's got like a little kid's basketball net that's very low, and the dog drops a ball in, and the crowd goes wild. Nothing but net.
Nothing but net. Nothing but net. She goes for points, and then she goes for the rebound. It's perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. So there's so many fun things that you can teach your dog.
And then there's also multi-purposes for some tricks. So let's talk specifically about the shake a paw trick.
Right. Okay.
So shake a paw is usually one of the first tricks that we will start with our young puppies because it's an easy one to teach.
Right.
It's usually pretty easy to get them to the point where they're going, okay, you know what? Here, take my paw.
Yes.
Take my paw. Take my paw. And all you're going to do to get there. So if you were to lure shake a paw, what would that look like?
I would have the puppy sitting in front of me, so I'd lure them into a sit. And then what I would do is I would take the treat just above their nose, and I'd lure it off on an angle, kind of up in the air, kind of beyond their shoulder.
Picture the dog like stretching.
So the puppy says, I want that treat. So they got to stretch, and as they stretch, the opposite leg is going to come up just to kind of give them a bit more balance. The moment I see the paw move, and I'm going to take it in my other hand and reward.
Yeah, absolutely. And very quickly, dogs figure out, oh, you know what? I lift this paw and I get a reward. Hey, how about that?
Right.
And this is them with early learning systems, figuring out how to give us what we're looking for and figuring out how to think and how to learn and how to offer. You know, I think it's amazing that our dogs are so adept at learning and figuring out the things that we want to do because they don't even necessarily know that they're supposed to be learning. Like I always compare it to us going to school, and we go to school and we sit in, did go to school and sit in desks, and we had a quiet environment to work in or a collective environment to work in. Like we were set up for optimal learning. And we knew that we were there to learn.
Right.
You know, on some level, you knew that. Our dogs don't even necessarily know that.
No.
So to get that interest in things that we're doing, sometimes we need to be creative and we need to have some fun. And we need to make it rewarding for the dogs. So this is a perfect way of getting started with your young puppies. So if I were to... if I were to use other methods to teach a shake a paw, so if, for example, I was using capturing, I would have to wait for the dog to offer that naturally, which some dogs do.
Some dogs do,
absolutely. Some dogs are very pawy. Actually, I have a picture of the first moment I met Reggie way back when. And he was very pawy his entire life. And the very first second I met him, my sister snapped a picture, and it's me with this look on my face that you can just tell I'm just so overjoyed to meet this puppy. I had to drive down to Virginia Beach to pick him up because he was from a breeder.
Oh, he was a beach bum.
He was a beach bum. So I drove down and got out of the car and walked up, and she basically had this puppy in her hands. And the picture is of me with this glorious smile on my face, huge.
You need to show me this picture.
His paw touching me in the middle, like he just basically reached out and said hello with his paw. And he just did that
I think he was reaching out,
life.
going, "No, Shannon, stop!
No, this can't be my fate. It can't be my fate." I think he was giving me a high five there. No, but truly, he was a very pawy
He was trying
dog.
to kick you.
I could have captured probably boot. Get out of here. I could have captured the shake a paw, the high five with him very easily. Some dogs aren't pawy like that, so you might not be able to do the capturing thing, or it might take you a lot longer. You can shape through these things as well, but it's something that's really, it's more conducive for luring.
Yes.
And this is what's nice about having different methods of training. I'm not a purist at all. Are you a purist?
No.
I use anything and everything.
I have no loyalties.
I thought you were loyal to me.
Other than you, Shannon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and like the methods that we use to teach our dogs can range so much, but it's so important to be able to tap into different tools. You know, that old saying, if every problem you have is a nail, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you better hope every problem is a nail. That's it. That's better.
I've never heard that saying.
It's a great saying, and it's so true.
Right.
You know, stack your toolbox with as much as you can. Learn about all the different learning methods, because some learning is conducive to some specific behaviors, and other learning is more conducive to other behaviors. And if you have the best of all worlds, you're never going to come up short when it comes to teaching something to your dog.
Yeah, and every dog learns differently. Like some dogs learn very well by capturing. Other dogs struggle with it more. So you need to teach train the dog in front of you.
Yes.
So, know that no one cookie cutter is going to work for every single dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is just fact. That's just the way it goes. The more you know, the more you can help, the more you can train it, the more you can break it down.
You're never done learning in dog training.
Never. Oh
never.
Gosh,
never.
No.
There's always something to learn.
And thank goodness for that.
Yes.
Like I love the mental stimulation of learning new stuff. I love hitting on new things and being like, that's so cool. I wish I had known that.
Yeah.
However many years ago.
Imagine how boring it would be to know everything.
Oh.
It would be boring.
Well,
it's exciting to learn. It's motivating and exciting.
One day I will know. Yeah,
You'll know.
It is. It truly is.
Yes.
Truly
like
is.
Discovering something new is just so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. It's mentally stimulating.
Right.
It doesn't matter how old we get. We want to keep learning.
Right.
It's important too.
Right. So, and
it's
dog,
really a
dog
skill.
training is perfect for that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We can always tell the students who are still learning when they come into class, the students who are used to, upgrading their education or their work or whatever the case may be, versus the students who have sort of stagnated in learning, because learning itself is a skill. It really is.
Right.
So keep learning, even if it's something really little and outside the box.
Right.
Keep learning. Dog training's great, but anything that you can learn with is going to serve you very well. So when it comes to that shake a paw, the shake a paw is a great trick because it has so many other tricks that we can tack onto it. We call it the 3-in-1. So what's the second trick you would pull out of a shake a paw?
You could do a wave.
You could do a wave.
Yeah. Oh, but the easiest one to go then is a high five.
Yes.
So for the shake a paw, my palm is up. For the high five, I make the high five shape.
Yes.
Then it can also turn into a wave.
Yep.
And it can also turn into sore paw. I used to say to Cowboy, is your paw sore? And she'd hold up her leg, even though her paw wasn't sore. But, poor Cowboy is a sore paw.
Yeah.
It was just, I remember my son used to do that constantly. I think that was this favorite trick that she did, was show her sore paw.
Yeah. Reggie would have a very high wave. Like, it was just adorable. He would throw it way up there.
He's a keener.
When I say to Ned wave, he basically just does sore paw. He lifts his foot just about this much off the ground. And then it was so adorable that I just started rewarding that. Yeah. So that became
he's much cooler about it. He's not a nerd.
Oh, he's a coolie. He's a cool guy.
He's a cool dude. Whereas Reggie... Nerd.
No. It's the other way around. Ned's such a nerd. Right, she was too. Oh, man. Anyways, So shake a paw turns to high five, turns to wave. So you've got 3 tricks in one there. What's
And
something-
soar.
And
Sore
so,
paw.
oh, right. Sore
4.
paw.
It's 4.
You could also do cross your feet. You could do there's so many things that we
Right.
can do with paws. I
right.
actually have taught cross your feet. We have a cross your feet workshop. If anybody is interested in that in on our online site, if you go to mccandogs.com, you can check out all the workshops that we have available.
Nancy used be a lady. She
Be
says,
a lady. Yep.
Be a lady. And her
Yeah.
dog crosses her paws. Yeah. Very, very, very queen-like.
Very demure.
Yes. Yes.
Very, very. So what else can you think about in terms of practical application for that shake a paw trick?
Well, your dog's used to offering a paw, so they can offer the paw to dry it off on these muddy days. Right
Bingo.
now in Southern Ontario, we are living in a mud pit.
We are.
Now, it's supposed to change today. We're supposed to start getting freezing weather, but there's a lot of paw wiping that's going on all over Southern Ontario.
Oh my goodness, isn't that a fact?
Right, yes.
So much. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that comes in handy, right? So we actually just talked about nail trims, and handling feet, and how important that is for our overall dog's health. So here's another way of saying me touching your feet is a really positive thing, right? And it can be used for, I can take a towel and I can say shake, and then I can use that towel to sort of rub my dog's feet.
Right. Yeah. And
that's gonna be great.
One time I was on a walk with Cowboy, and she stepped on a sucker, like on a lollipop.
Oh.
That was covered in ants in a sticky, gooey summer mess. And I had to remove ants, sticky sucker, and all off her feet. And it was really gross. So I was so glad that she wasn't panicked about getting her foot touched.
Yeah.
So no more dropping lollipops on the ground, kids.
No more lollipops.
Yeah,
down.
or spitting gum out too. That could land it on your feet too.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, but yeah, it's so practical. And like checking for burrs or
ticks.
Yeah, ticks.
Or
little ticks are a big one.
I remember Cowboy had webbed feet, not webbed like a Newfoundland, but a different type of webbing. The breed's bred to run on sand, so they had a little bit of a different foot construction between her pads, I found. And she used to get like gravel or grit often caught in there too, and it would cut up her feet. Oh. So if I had been like in a gritty type surface, I would often open up her toes, spread them, and just use my finger to brush out all the grit that was caught in those webs.
And I bet that was something that made her feel better after the fact.
Definitely.
So definitely appreciated. Yeah, it's never a mistake to help your dog understand that you handling them is a good thing.
Yes.
And something that you should be working on. So I think that's a fabulous use for a shake a paw trick. All right, I'm going to reach into our toolbox.
Into the toolbox.
Woohoo!
It's really a question box. There it is.
Is the question box. I have a big one. Okay. Oh, let's see if I can read this. All righty. So my 8-month-old Corgi Aussie pup is super smart. We've been using your videos since before we picked her up. She knows a lot and is in puppy school, but one issue we are still having is her being overexcited and only ever able to calm down for like 2 seconds before she starts to rapid fire tricks, bark, and act frustrated during training sessions. Any suggestions for this? Her overexcitement extends with meeting new people, and when we arrive at puppy school, jumping and pulling to the extreme. We have been very committed and persistent with different tactics, but do you have anything out of the ordinary that might help us? Thank you so much. Awesome question. This is a great question. And a lot of the times I think that we overdo it with the action thing and we don't balance that out enough by doing the calm thing.
Yes.
So I will say that for as much time as I spend training action behaviors with my dogs, I probably spend twice as much, if not 3 times as much, training calming behaviors as well, because I don't like a lot of excitement in the house. I like a calm house. I like my dogs I let my dogs up on the couch as long as they are, touting the rules and there's no issue
not
there.
covered in mud.
And not covered in mud. Yeah, well, I do have couch covers for those incidents because tollers are not. Well, and you
live in the country too.
I do live in the mucky country, and tollers are not a breed for the fastidious. Like you will be upset very, very, very quickly. I have had to learn to live with it because I like things to be very, very clean. And unfortunately, tollers are muckers. They're incredible muckers. So, so back to our question here. I want my house to be calm. I don't want dogs that are always on when they're in the house. And a lot of the times, especially, I find this is especially true with us as sport people. We tend to do a lot with our dogs. We bring them out and we rev them and we run and we tug and we play and we, want the best speed possible for agility and fly ball. So we pump them and we get them excited and we really show them their power and that excitement. We need to be doing just as much to counter that.
Yes.
Because the dog that comes out and ends up just feeling wild feelings anytime they're out is always going to have that association. So I want to make sure that just as many times as I bring my dog out for action, I bring him out twice as much to go and lie down or hop up on the couch and lie down or go on their own beds and lie down, depending on the scenario that I'm working on. I create and cultivate calm behavior in the house because that's what I want and that's what I like. When we are working, when we're in our specific training spaces, when we're out and about, that's the time for excitement. That's the time for wild running through the mud so that you can, then get your paws wiped off after. But I want to make sure that I do the balanced thing and I spend just as much time training the calm behaviors and creating that off switch, especially with our busy dogs, right? Well, some of these breeds, they're bred to work. They are bred to work full time.
And they become very stimulated by motion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just going to look at this again. Yeah. So Corgi, Aussie pup. This is a busy dog. This is a Corgi that's bred to herd and this is an Aussie that's bred to herd. And both of those dogs need to be powerful in that herding. They need to be able to move swiftly. They need to be able to react swiftly. One of the reasons that the Corgi is the stature that they are and the size that they are is so that they are underneath the cow's hooves, but they still need to be able to jump out of the way, right? I'm sure that your Corgis were incredibly nimble.
They were very, very, yes. It's surprising because they have such a stout little frame, but they could move and they can snake that head in very quickly and snake it out. And
they're not the type of dog that is naturally going to go towards calm tendencies.
Right.
You might have a Mastiff that has natural tendencies to hang out on the couch all day and just chillax and has natural inclination to be calm versus a working dog like an Aussie, a Corgi. Those are two working dogs in one. That dog's natural inclination is going to be go, 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 go. So we need to train the stop part. We need to train the off switch. We need to help that dog understand how to have emotional control, how to make good decisions when there's action going on so that we truly can help that dog live a perfect life. So balance it out. It's not really outside the box thinking. I don't think that's what's needed in this scenario. I think that for your average working dog, you just need to make sure that you're spending time teaching that calm, quiet behavior as well. So hopefully that helps. There's another question in our bin if you would like to jump on.
Okay, next question. I like the idea of shake, but could this cause begging at the table or pawing for attention? I'm getting a multi-poo soon. Love your videos.
Oh, that's nice.
Well,
I'm glad you love our videos.
Yes, thank you. And multi-poo's cute little dogs. Yeah, such a cute little dog. Now, yes, it can.
Absolutely.
It can for sure. And I talked about that earlier. Cowboy recognized that people were walking around with food, and Cowboy said, I have an idea how to get food.
Yeah.
Offer my paw. Now, with a young dog, if they came up to me at the table and started doing that, and then I started feeding them from the table, then I've rewarded that behavior and it's going to perpetuate. So I'm only going to reward the behavior when I've asked for it.
Yeah.
So if I'm at the kitchen table and I'm eating and Cowboy comes over and starts waving her foot at me, I'm not going to acknowledge her. Yeah. I'm going to completely ignore her and make sure she gets nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there are times when our dogs try to persist in getting us to engage with them in situations where we're not wanting to engage in that moment. So again, this is about balance. It's about saying, you know what? Yes, I've taught you how to shake a paw and I've built value for that shake a paw, but I've also built value for you just chilling out. I've also built value for this thing when I say, okay, that's enough. If Ned, for example, was coming to me with a toy, this happens all the time because Ned is a retriever, Ned is a toddler. He's got lots of, get up and go to him, busy breed and very, very diehard retriever, loves to chase anything and retrieve anything and does it ad nauseum. And if I allow it, he will plunk toys in my lap all night long. Well, sometimes I go, oh, yeah, you're a good boy. Yeah, we'll play a bit here. And I throw the toy. And other times I say, nope, buddy, not right now. And when I say not right now, I mean not right now.
Right.
And a lot of times people will try their best to say not right now. And then the dog keeps persisting and they go, oh, you're so cute. Okay, I'll throw it once.
Right.
And then the dog goes, okay, I persevere. That not right now thing doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Versus when I say not right now,
it never works.
We are not playing with that toy. You can keep throwing it at me all you want. It is not going to happen. If he gets obnoxious, I would just take the toy away. Like I wouldn't let that continue.
Right.
But I also never give in. I never let those puppy dog guys, as hard as it is.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I look at Kip and I just start laughing.
Right.
My partner Kip. I just start laughing because I think like seriously, how cute is this right now? Like, look at the look that I'm getting, and his head's down, and he's bleeding, and he's got this toy hanging out of his mouth.
Right.
But I will never give in. I will hold strong. My resolve for the cute dog face will hold strong.
Right.
Because then he knows.
Right. And there's sometimes you feel guilty too. Like sometimes I'll come home from work and I sit down and I just want to have 10 minutes of peace to myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then all of a sudden there's Honda. And he's got this like floppy toy and he's so, his little eyes are so bright and he's dropped it on my lap and he's just like, he's ready to go. Yeah. And I think, oh, the poor little guy's been home all day alone.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it.
Nope.
And so, but I stand fast. I say, you know, we'll do it later. Like we'll play later. And then I do make sure I give him some nice attention later.
Yeah. It's so important that we have some semblance of control in these scenarios and we're not living by our dog's rules.
Right.
Because even though that seems like a benign thing, right? My dog says, please throw my toy for me. And I give in and throw the toy for him. It's actually pushy on his part.
Yeah.
And if he says, okay, I can demand things from you in this scenario, that means he probably thinks he can demand things in this scenario over here as well. Yeah. And I'm actually making my life a little bit harder. And I'm also not being consistent with my dog.
Right.
So with Ned, for example, I joke about the cute face, but once I say not right now, it's done. Yep. And he knows. He goes, okay, I know you're never giving in. I'm never getting reinforcement past that at this point. So he gives up. I mean, he's nearly 7. So he knows at this point that not right now means it's not happening. Yeah. But it's so nice to have that.
Right.
You know, and you do see his demeanor change completely. He's understanding of what I'm saying to him.
Right.
No, we're not playing with this right now. But if I gave in on occasion,
you'd have
end up
you'd have more battles and more confusion on his part. Like, why isn't she throwing it? It works before.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully that has answered the question. And congratulations on your puppy coming home. Hopefully you have everything in order and you're going to have a blast with your puppy, Multi-Poo. That's really cute.
Yes.
All right. Have a blast teaching tricks, everybody.
Right, yeah. I drop in the comments. Put down some tricks that you've taught your dog.
Yeah, what's your favorite? What's your favorite? Give us some ideas.
Yeah, give us ideas. Yeah, we're always looking for new ideas. So
Absolutely.
Anything cool or just anything, really. We love to see what you guys are up to with your dogs.
Our members only post, there's a lot of people who have taught their dogs like multi-chain behaviors, like opening the cupboard, pulling out a bowl, closing the cupboard, giving the bowl to the human, things like that. It's so cool.
Yes.
So many cool things.
Right. And so helpful too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Back chaining is another way of teaching behaviors. I don't think we're going to get into that now, but there's so many different training methods out there and so fun. And you know what? Play with them. Even if they're ones that you don't like eventually, give them a shot.
Right.
See what you think and then decide from there.
Yes.
All right. That was a fun episode to do. On that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanny.
Happy training.
Bye-bye.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!